My name is Leopold Westrey from Lincoln, presenting the following informative speech for the 2020 Seattle Academy Invitational. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. My favorite Dr. Seuss book when I was young seems merely to be of questionable quality. I mean, seriously, you're just rhyming fish with fish. But behind its apparent innocuousness is another story. Many Seuss titles have stirred up controversy over the years, such as Hop on Pop, banned for promoting violence, or If I Ran the Zoo, banned for racially charged language. Being read at such an important time in the development of their readers, picture books gain an immense amount of influence on the young children who read them. To explore the power hidden between the lines of picture books, today we'll read a story in 3 parts. First we'll turn back to the Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books, then we'll flip ahead to the powerful sociological forces surrounding them, and finally, we'll discover the unexpected educational strength of postmodern picture books. Let's go back to the early years of the Soviet Union. You're 8 years old and you're handed a book to read. It says The Bolshevik Hedgehog on its cover, and there's some nice animals playing around. Seems like a good read. You start to get into it and find out that the animals on the cover were banned from having fun by the evil Tsar Boy. The protagonist, a worker hedgehog, that leads the rest of the forest animals to overthrow the Tsar Boy, chanting eternal freedom to the feral people. Sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it? The Bolshevik Hedgehog is a bit blunt with it, but most picture books have some sort of purpose. Take the classic Grimm's fairy tales, which intended to teach morals to their stories. According to Andrei Emel, curator of the Katzen Children's Library at Princeton University, the Soviets were keenly aware of the need to leap ahead as quickly as possible, and at the same time create a new breed of men. To achieve this, they put out a call for new picture books, with posters such as this one with Lenin saying, "Give a new children's book. Work, battle, technology, nature. The new reality of childhood." The Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books shows that they knew so much more than just teach good behavior. Their ability to shape the minds of young children is strong enough to influence the plans of global leaders. The new Soviet picture books were key to their literacy campaign, and fantasy books were seen as hostile to the revolution due to their association with the bourgeoisie. As a result, the tremendous artistic firepower that could be captured in the Soviet Union of the 1920s made the hard, unglamorous work of electrification or agriculture seem heroic and patriotic, according to Emel. While the Soviets' use of propaganda in picture books shows that they can be used to intentionally shape young minds, societies also influence the way their children think through forms of unintentional propaganda in picture books. Picture books can create a sort of perfect storm of powerful sociological forces. There are 2 key factors here. First, picture books are read at a time when their readers are just developing the lenses through which they see themselves and the world around them. And second, pictures are more prescribed than the written word, in the way that they give readers less room to imagine situations and characters themselves. As a result, the forces that shape the content of picture books have a tremendous impact on the way that young kids see the world around them. Sociologists first really began to study this with a 1972 study by UC Davis professor Lenore Weitzman and her colleagues, which found that picture books underrepresented women. Male characters were 11 times more likely to be featured in a picture from the Caldecott Award-winning books from the 60s and 70s that they analyzed. The study also found that picture books furthered gender roles and stereotypes. Male characters were portrayed as leaders, while female characters were portrayed as followers, among other stereotypes. In discussion of the impact of these forces, Weitzman argues that through the world of picture books, little girls are never shown that they can find fulfillment outside of the home, or through intellectual pursuits. And that little girls are taught to have low aspirations, because so few opportunities are portrayed as available to them. Now that study was published nearly 50 years ago. Have we seen anything change since then? Well, in 2007, Robert Clark revisited the questions asked by Weissman with some very interesting results. The trend in stereotyping is what one might perhaps expect, a consistent linear decrease since the 1970s. But the trend in stereo representation perhaps diverges more from our expectations. Representation increased into the 80s and 90s, but decreased into the early 2000s. This trend raises a very important question. If the content of picture books is impacting the way that young children see the world around them, what's shaping the content of the picture books? Clark points to societal forces themselves in his analysis, noting that the rise and decline of representation correlates with the rise and fall of the third wave feminist movement. Weissman also notes the importance of societal forces, finding that books with female authors tended to have more female characters. That said, individuals also have a role, as researcher Anyang Yu Lee found. Educators, parents, and librarians had an immense role in providing their students with culturally authentic picture books. So, if picture books can be used to instill Soviet propaganda and gender roles in our students, should we just throw them all away? Well, no. Of course not. And a key reason for this is that picture books can actually teach the skills required to think critically. And, as it turns out, one subgenre in particular is incredibly effective at doing so. Postmodern picture books. Now, when you or I think about postmodernist literature, we might think back to being frustrated or annoyed by techniques like nonlinear narrative or indeterminacy. Young kids see things very differently. When art educator Pamela Helbin began reading picture books to her kids, she figured out that some were very different from the ones that she read when she was young. She didn't really like them, but her kids loved the shifting viewpoint, self-reference, and other postmodern techniques. To explore why young children find postmodern picture books so interesting and engaging, researcher Cheryl Edge Partington interviewed a group of students as they read through a picture book that distorted and disrupted time, was indeterminate, and used other postmodern techniques. The kids' first reaction to the book was that it was weird, but as they began to read further, they quickly became interested and engaged with the text due to the challenges created by the postmodern techniques and the curiosity that they stimulated. The problem is, parents and educators don't show the enthusiasm for postmodern picture books that young kids have. Take David Maclay's 1991 Gallagher Award-winning Black and White. Maclay describes the subject of the book as the book, and each page has 4 different narratives on it. When asked if they'd be willing to teach black and white in their classrooms, most educators were hesitant, concerned that it would be too hard. But Edge Partington finds that the exact opposite is true. The educational strength of postmodern picture books comes as a result of their postmodern techniques. Nonlinearity prepares readers for naturally nonlinear texts, like websites or nonfiction, and indeterminacy forces readers to co-create with the author, encouraging, moreover demanding, the reader to engage in critical thinking. Edge Partington leaves educators with an important message, stressing that as the face of reading changes with the influx of digital and interactive media, it's important as educators that we teach our students the strategies required to access these new and challenging texts. Behind the cover of a picture book is more than you or I might initially think there is. It includes thousands of possibilities to be arranged into different stories, each having a different impact on its readers. From this, picture books shows the immense power of the pen, due to their ability to shape the minds of young readers who are just developing the lenses through which they see themselves and the world around them. As a result, picture books show up in history, in sociology, and at the intersection between literary arts and education. So, as we close the back cover of our exploration in this important and fascinating genre, we find that behind even the simplest of fishy rhymes are deeply complex and influential stories. Thank you.